Greetings and welcome, and it's finally come. It's finally time. The election is tomorrow. It's such a strange feeling when you've been waiting for something for so long. You know, I remember clear as day 2019, just sitting there after the Tories won a massive majority, just thinking, Jesus Christ, we've got to endure another 5 years of this. Like, it felt like an absolute eternity. 5 years, and it was like an absolute eternity when you think back to all the things we had to endure. Well, first of all, just the disastrous Brexit deal that we got, the disastrous Brexit exit, and then COVID, the god-awful management of COVID. I mean, wherever your political allegiance is, if you could pick any prime minister to have to deal with the first worldwide pandemic in a century, would anyone pick Boris Johnson to be? I would have had anyone, any prime minister in the history of this country to deal with this pandemic rather than Boris Johnson, which is exactly why we got thousands of needless deaths of people in care homes. He didn't want to lock down the care homes quick enough. Just the disgusting corruption throughout the whole of the pandemic, with lucrative government contracts going to people not that can best do the job, but Tory donors, or a Michelle Mone that wants to be in the House of Lords. Oh yeah, I know how to source PPE. Oh, you do, Michelle, do you? Yeah, sure. How hard can it be? Thousands of unusable PPE, NHS not getting the PPE they need. It's just pure disgusting. And then the three prime ministers we had to endure, the Liz Truss mini budget. I mean, it just goes on and on. The last 5 years has felt like an eternity. And like I say, it's a strange feeling when it's finally time to get rid of these bastards. And, you know, it's all nice to be cautious and stuff like that, but come on, we know they're going tomorrow. We know that Labour are coming in. And like I say, the only thing I can think, it's like Christmas, isn't it? When you're a kid, you've been excited throughout the whole of December. Christmas finally comes, and then sometimes it can be a bit of an anticlimax, can't it? And, you know, I seriously think we need to manage our expectations. Of course, you know, it's great. We're finally getting rid of 14 years of austerity, of lies, of just basically making every single aspect of this country worse. We've had to endure from this government, and it's exciting that it's finally coming to an end, but we seriously need to manage expectations. I'm managing expectations of what's going to come. Now, a lot of controversy over Labour's policies. Are they just carrying on what the Tories are doing? You know, they're not being big enough, they're not being bold enough, even with simple things like the child benefit cap. There's a lot of confrontation on Labour supporters on this, but we know that it's not going to be an easy task. I mean, this country, after 14 years of the Tories, like I just said, everything. I mean, I think this is probably the first time in history. Didn't know whether to go for a cheeky amber then. Definitely not. This has got to be the first time in history where a government has come in. I mean, okay, maybe Attlee after the war's government, but the first time a government's come in and literally every single aspect of the country is shit, is just the worst. Take your pick: education, healthcare, government debt, immigration. Take every aspect of this country, and it is god awful. It's the worst it's ever been. So they have got an insane task, and I appreciate that they have got an absolutely incredible task to do. And, you know, maybe some of the policies aren't bold enough. Maybe they're doing similar things to what the Tories are. But there's two key areas that I know it will make a massive difference. Regardless of what their policies are, they're not corrupt. I'm confident in that these guys are not corrupt. They're not going to be dishing out lucrative government contracts to their friends. I just don't see that. That's not them. That's the Tories. They've done that all their life. You know, I honestly believe that they're not corrupt. And secondly, they're more competent. Without a doubt. I mean, the Tory party right now is just the bottom of the gutter. It's the bottom of the barrel. I mean, this just kept starting with endless different prime ministers, but really accelerated when Boris Johnson came in, and he literally just decimated anyone that was pro-EU. You're gone. anyone that didn't support him during the election, you're gone. And just the absolute god-awful people that should never have been anywhere near a minister role in that Tory cabinet. You know, you think of your Nadine Dorries, you think of Liz Truss. You know, these people should not be anywhere near a government cabinet, and they are literally the bottom of the barrel. So I know that the people in the Labour government they are at least competent and at least not corrupt, and I think they do generally care. Do I think Rishi Sunak cares about homeless people, poor people? No, of course he doesn't. Do I think Jeremy Hunt cares about the NHS? No. I don't think for a second these people care. But when I look at people like Angela Rayner, who wants to do a massive social housing build, council housing build, I can see when she talks about this, she cares. She wants to make a difference. And that's the three main difference. Okay, maybe their policies aren't bold enough. Maybe they're not going to deviate economically much from what the Tories are doing, but at least they're competent, at least they're not corrupt, and at least they actually care about trying to fix the country. And that, if you've got that as a starting base, then that's a good position to go forward. Now, as for what happens after the election, depending on what sort of go on, mate, all right. What sort of size majority Labour get. I've been doing some polls this week, actually. Each day I've been putting a poll up asking you guys, how many seats do you think Labour are going to get today? How many seats do you think the Tories are going to get? Reform, the Greens, and general consensus is that Labour are going to get a massive majority, maybe over 400 seats. There won't be a coalition. The Lib Dems will probably increase their share, but they won't factor in. And Reform, however, they're going to get a large amount of the voter share across the country. They ain't going to be anywhere near a coalition government. But that is my next conversation for what I want to talk about, the Reform Party. We will have, most likely, a Labour government that is... why's that beeping? I don't know. Something just beeped. Reform Party. The rise of Nigel Farage. You know, this is something important. We've seen it over Europe. We've seen it in France. Okay, the rise of the right. We've just had 14 years of right-wing populism. I'm hoping the country does not want to go anywhere back near that. But Nigel Farage needs to be resolved. The situation of Nigel Farage needs to be resolved. And you do that, I've mentioned this in another video, by just throwing these guys a bone. He needs to tackle the boats, Keir Starmer. He needs to do something about that, and he needs to do something about poverty. More moderate people will move over to Nigel Farage, will move over to Reform Party all the time. They basically see boats crossing the channel, asylum seekers in hotels, and British people on the streets, homeless, and British people using food banks. All the time, those things are a factor. More people will move to Nigel Farage. More people will see Nigel Farage as a way to change this. And he's not the way to change this. He's the complete opposite. But unless Keir Starmer gets on top of those things, stopping the boats, I mean, that alone, if he stops the boats, sorts out that situation, that's a guaranteed re-election in 5 years' time, surely. He needs to get a tackle on the boats. He needs to sort out where we're housing asylum seekers, and he needs to make a dent in poverty. We can't have the level of homelessness and food bank usage that we've had. I think if you sort out those four key areas, you will nip Nigel Farage in the butt, and you will stop moderate people going over to him. And as for this country as a whole, we need to heal this political divide. I've talked about this so much on so many videos. I just don't want to turn into America. We're almost there, where we just got these culture wars constantly fueling our social media. Everything is bitter rivalries, political bitter rivalries. You have to have a position on everything, whether it be climate change or immigration or Israel and Palestine. You have to pick a side, and you have to vigilantly fight that side. You know, what happened to... do you know what? I'm not sure. you know what, I don't think I know enough about Israel-Palestine to take a vigilant side on this. And I'm scared for the next 5 years, unless we start talking to each other properly. We're just going to turn into America with these culture wars and just carry on more vigilantly hating each other than we already do. And I think the government have got a role to play in that. Like I said, you know, he needs to sort out these issues. If there's no problem in the first place, Nigel Farage doesn't arise. I'm babbling on that one a bit, but yeah, give me your thoughts, guys. What do you think? If you like the video, click a like. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe up top. There'll be another video, you can check that out as well. And next time I see you, it'll be election day, or we'll have a different government. Till next time, take care.
Don't put him off. We definitely have James
You would have
Cleverly
him.
on.
We'd have
Definitely
him.
have James Cleverly on.
Would we have Kemi Badenoch? Yes, I think we would. We've tried to get Michael Gove. He said yes about 15 times, but mysteriously never seems to turn up. Who else would we have?
I think all those people would be. I'd be interested in interviewing Ben Wallace. He's no longer the Defence Secretary, but I think he'd be a good person to get on.
What about Lucy Fraser? Would you be interested in Lucy Fraser culture?
I like Lucy Fraser.
It's not about whether you'd like them, it's whether you'd be interested in, would they be interesting to our listeners? Would she be as interesting as Anthony Scaramucci and Robert Sapolsky?
Well, Robert Sapolsky, you know, I still think is